The easiest ticket I've ever had was the biggest issue I've ever had as well.
Wow.
It was just to change. Difficult part I faced when I first started the tech is...
As a manager, what do you do every single day? Because now you're not doing anything technical most of the time.
Biggest task is to manage the IT service desk and the ticketing system.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله ثم الصلاة والسلام على نبيه المصطفى وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Welcome all of you guys, both online and in-class audience. Today we are privileged to have Engineer Kamil Sheikh, who is EU IT Service Lead. He started his journey from the bottom, from first line, then went to second line, then now he is in managerial position. He manages the staff in not only UK, but entire EU. So we're going to learn a lot of things from him, inshallah ta'ala. So get ready, write down, take the points, and if you have any question, just wait till the end. We'll give you plenty of time to ask you questions. So first, let me welcome Engineer and Kamil. Welcome.
Jazakallah, thank you. Assalamu alaikum everyone, and thank you so much for having me. Yes, I started my IT career into tech in 2021, December. That was my first time interacting with the Ma'lin in Stonebridge. I came to see if I wanted to get into IT or into coding. So I went to one of his class where he was teaching Windows Server, and I just sat down in the class just to see how the class goes, how is the interaction with the students, and if it's something that I wanted to get into it. After the class is when I approached the Ma'lin and just to ask how I could get into this, because it looked interesting, it sounded something that I wanted to start with. So I started in December with Network Plus and Windows Server together, and I finished around March 2022.
So basically you did 2 courses before you started applying for IT jobs.
Yes, that's correct.
Commercia, network, and the server.
Server, yeah.
But before that, you had some kind of knowledge into tech.
Yes, so before that I lived in Sweden. So I worked as a CNC operator for about 7-8 years. So I was into the mechanical programming side of things. So when I moved here, I wanted to do something completely different and just start a new journey.
Do you think courses you did at GlobalNet gave you the edge, the competitive edge to get the first IT job?
Yes, it did. Most of my interview were based on the lab I did, especially with the Windows Server at the end. The questions that were asked wasn't questions that I have never heard before. Most questions were always based on either the classes, what we went through the labs, or what we went through the course for the last 18 weeks. Before I started applying, I went to a couple of people that came to see the Ma'lin that were talking about their journey, how they got into the first IT, what sort of questions they were asked, just to try to see how I'm going to get into that. Because the first problem or the first doubt I had was I only did labs. So how am I going to go talk to someone who's in IT for maybe 10, 15 years and tell them about the question they're going to ask? And how are they not going to see that that's not the answer they are looking for?
That's good. So, of course, Manaha, you, of course, had a lot of information from other students, and then you decided to start your own journey. So share with us what strategy you used, what are the main things you put in place before you started, what websites you used in terms of CV, in terms of interview questions, in terms of the job search process. So give us comprehensive overview about your job search.
So the first thing I started was to build my CV. So I wanted to make sure that my CV has a lot of knowledge, so straight away as a recruiter you can see that. But the problem I ran into the beginning was that I had a lot of skills in there that I didn't even knew about. I just went into YouTube's, Google, and I just took a lot of skills just to try to make sure that my CV looked good. So the first few interviews I did, I straight away realized that it's not just about having, the top skills in your CV. It's about knowing what's in there. So that's the biggest part I took about the first few interviews I did, is to try to rearrange my CV and make sure whatever it says there, I know 100% of those skills.
Some of them are here, of course, معناها a lot of students, they completed the same courses you did, the network, the server, and now they are kind of ready to start their own journey. Some of them a bit hesitant, some of them a bit scared, of course, معناها they have fear. So what is your advice? What would you say to them, both online in class and future audience online?
I would say if your CV is ready, go for it. Because the first few interviews, if you get the job, alhamdulillah. If you don't, you will learn a lot about it. Because at the end, is the most thing you can ask is the questions that follow up. So once the interview is done, you need to ask the question that you want to know about, that you can use it for your next interview if you don't get it. Is to evolve your skills, is to evolve what is in the market, and it helps a lot to do the interviews and not be afraid of it. Because none of those questions that you think they will ask is not going to come. It's a basic skills they are looking for. Someone they can just straight away teach and evolve within the company.
Okay, in terms of CV, what are the main things you need to put on the CV? What are the main things you need to avoid? What are the common mistakes about the CV? Because some of them are just starting to build a CV, and it's not good to have a static CV. You should have dynamic CV. So what's your best advice in terms of CV, how to build and how to prepare and how to change the CV?
To basically stand out, you need the skills as well as the people skills. You need to highlight what is your strongest. And the biggest mistake people or I made as well is if you put too many things in there, people will stop reading it. You need to make sure that is straight away gets the attention of whoever is reading it, that they are the people that are going to be either passing it to the hiring manager for the interviews, or they are the people that are going to be doing the interviews. And avoid putting in stuff that you have no knowledge or anything about it, because you will be asked sometimes about those specific bullet points that you have in there. So you have to know what is in there.
That's good. In terms of a website, of course, معناها there are so many websites to upload your CV, to apply tech IT jobs from. So what do you think? What are the main 3 or up to 5 common websites that you recommend students here and online to use in the future?
The best one to start with is LinkedIn, because a lot of recruiters look at your profile straight away. So if you look like a great candidate, before they even offer you interview, sometimes is they will search for you in LinkedIn. And LinkedIn became like the Instagram of job search. So the people look in there to see who is this person, what skills or what other stuff do they have there, and does it align with what they are looking for. So it has to be something that you update constantly. You have to follow people within your job search so you can learn from them, see how they evolved. And the other websites, I would say JobServe, Indeed. Not only can you search for jobs, but you can build your profile. You can let recruiters know about your CV and about yourself. So you have people reaching out to you before you even apply for it.
Can you share with us some of the maybe mistakes or challenges you did or faced at the beginning of your tech journey?
So the difficult part I faced when I first started the tech is when you come in, you do expect people to train you, but people do expect as well for you to take notes, to take advantage of those times, because every company has, training for different periods. So you might have 2 weeks you're shadowing someone, or you might have a week, depending on how high in demand the position is. The biggest mistake I made was not taking notes at the beginning. I thought this is something I can always ask, I can just go back. And it felt like I was falling behind a bit at the beginning. The workload will get a lot if you're not organized as well. So the second thing you will learn is about organizing your work, making sure you know what you need to do when you get into that door.
So that's good, mashallah. When you apply IT or tech jobs, of course, there are different stages. The first stage is a phone interview. They call you, maybe from agencies, from the employer. The second stage could be the Zoom Teams. The third could be face-to-face. So can you give us overview about these interview processes, especially based on your own experience?
From my experience, the first interviews I always had was through the phone. Somebody will call you to say, you've applied for this position, we have your CV. And it's always either the recruiter, an agency, or an HR person just trying to follow up on a CV. They will ask you a basic questions that they just have written it down. They just looking for particular keywords that you're going to be using it. So it's very good to know about the position that you're applying for and the role description. The job description is what needs to be aligned with your CV and your questions and answers as well, because that's what they take off from that.
Say there's a job, they advertised online, there's a job spec or job description, and you have a CV, and the CV doesn't match the job spec. So what would you do in order to make sure the CV matches the job spec? What is the process you go normally through in order to change your CV to adapt to that specific job?
So what I always did was, in my experience, I had 2 CVs. So one that was built to what I thought was the best, and then one where I always try to adapt some keywords. So are they looking for particular Active Directory keywords? Are they looking for Office 365 or something skillful that I don't have in my CV? So applying through 50, 60 jobs is easy by, uploading a file or uploading your CV very quickly. But the most important thing is you need to make sure to update it, because some of the processes, they go through automation. So it's not always somebody who reads those CV at the first stage.
Can you give us overview about your first face-to-face interview? Take us through the first day you attended a face-to-face interview, what questions you ask, HR questions, technical, and maybe scenario-based questions, because there are multiple questions in every single interview. So take us through that specific interview.
Yep. So the first face-to-face was actually the job that I got at the end. That was the first one I had as a face-to-face. Every other one was through Teams or Zoom, as the Ma'alin said at the beginning. And when you first walked in, you get to meet the IT service desk manager or IT manager. They introduce themselves to you. They will take you to a meeting room at the beginning. So it depends on if you're in the last stages of that interview or just the beginning of it. So the first bit they asked me was just the basic one. Tell me about yourself. Tell me about the role that you do now and the company that you work for, that you have in your CV, that's your present job. What is it? What do they do? And then they moved on to the technical questions, which is DNS, what's DHCP, and just to explain the basic term. Because I was applying as a first-line support, they didn't care about if I knew much about DHCP or anything like that. They just wanted the basic understanding of it, so that you have that IT network knowledge of it. And the non-technical, so more of a knowledge questions, is your scenario questions, where they ask me, how would you deal with if somebody's computer is not coming on? They wanted to basically see my answers and how I approach those questions. So not just to say, check the power straight away, but just to see how I follow those troubleshoots. I had to walk them through, and those are the things that build me to previous interviews. So when I first asked about those steps and asked about feedback, those were the feedbacks that I was given in my previous interviews. And most of them was, you need to elaborate on your answers. You cannot just approach the direct answers. And HR questions is the one, I was asked only one question about the HR, and it was to do with how would you deal with a difficult staff. And to see, because you are the front person, people will approach you every day, and they want to know that if somebody comes in and they're having a bad day, how would you approach that person and how would you calm them down?
So that's good, mashallah. So of course, when you apply IT jobs or tech jobs, sometimes you have to go through multiple interviews, yeah? Maybe if you're lucky, maybe 1 or 2 or 3. If you're not lucky, then you have to go maybe up to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have seen people who went through up to 20. So based on your own experience, tell us how many interviews you went through before you got the first IT job, before you got the offer.
I went through more than 10 interviews. So it wasn't the first or 2 that I got the job. The first, I would say 5 was just a basic frontline interview. So it was those that made me change my CV. For example, at the beginning, I didn't do the basic research about Office 365, for example, which is a key aspect nowadays to have as a frontline person. I just put it into my CV thinking they're not going to read that. They're just going to ask me the technical questions. I can answer that. So I went through, I think it was 14 interviews before I got my first job.
14 interviews?
Yeah.
Wow. Face to face?
No, mostly was over the phone. I only had one face-to-face.
Oh, okay, mashallah. So most of the time, I think that was COVID time.
Yeah, just after COVID time.
See, that's why. Because now most of the people, they go to
the office.
Face to face rather than online.
Yeah.
Okay, so you received the first offer, the IT job, the offer. So, and of course you started. So, give us overview about the offer, the first day you went to the office, the experience you had that specific day.
So, the offer of the position I had was after my face-to-face interview. They said they're gonna review it and get in touch with me. So as soon as I got home, I received an email saying they would like to offer me the position on the same day, and asked me about my notice period and when I can start the position. They gave me a schedule of what day to come, the dress code, and what to expect on your first day. So my first instant was I said 2 weeks is my notice period. When I first got the offer, I spoke to some family members about the position, about the offer they were making at the time, and straight away accepted the position. And I had to do some research for my own, and just to make sure how long is the journey to the office, what routes am I taking, to try to avoid being late for the first day, because I did not want to give a bad impression on my first day. So I arrived 20 minutes early on my first day. So I was sitting at the reception waiting for my manager to come and get you, because you have to have access card for certain offices, so you can just go in even though you are expected. So when I came in, they introduced me to the rest of the team. They gave me a tour of the office, the different teams, the position I was working on, where's my desk, and what I'm going to be doing on my first day.
For those who are aiming to start the first IT job, and could you outline the typical day-to-day? What do you do every single day as a first line? What are the main tasks you perform every single day? And also, what sort of technology you use every single day for first line role? Because most of them, they're going to apply first line role.
So for first line role, you are a lot more customer facing. You will realize in a lot of the interviews is a lot of technical questions and knowledge questions, because you're going to be facing with, it might be basic, but it's always those first frontline person. So you are the face of the company. They want to know who is this person I'm bringing to the team and the company as well. So you're not going to be facing a lot of the stuff that you go through the lab, especially at the latter stages of the server. It's not something that you will be sitting there doing a group policy or anything like that. It will be onboarding, offboarding of staff members, hardware especially, and that will be the key aspect they are looking to employ as a frontline person.
You mentioned very good point, which is most of the time you're not going to do advanced tasks like setting up domain controller or DHCP server or printer server, because a lot of them, they believe the first line or the first role is difficult and involves a lot of technical. So as you mentioned, the IT first role is basically onboarding, offboarding, creating user accounts, groups, and all of that. So are there any advanced tasks, group policy or DHCP management or stuff like that for first line?
No, because everything you will realize straight away is done through delegation. Your task is delegated already based on the group you're part of. You will not even see, as you work with Windows Server now, as soon as you build your administrator account, you see everything because you're the global admin. But when you come into the front line, you don't see the group policy at all, let alone work on it, because that will be hidden from you. You don't have the read or write. You will never be asked about it. The questions that are directed to you sometimes will come from more of the staff in the office. If you are working from the office, they will approach you to certain question. What you are expected is to delegate those tasks. Who is that question directed to? Is that part of security or the second line person? So it's just to have the knowledge of your team as soon as possible is the key aspect.
So to summarize, basically you are saying anyone with the A+ and network and the server can do the first line and maybe second line role.
The first 2 chapters of server, even, not even server.
Wow. First 2 lessons.
If you have the knowledge of Active Directory, you already have more advanced than you think, because most of the roles are based in Active Directory. What you're creating, what you're resetting, the accounts that you're disabling, they're all based in Active Directory. To have Office 365 is advantage.
What are you waiting, guys, doing? Time to apply, sir.
So when I joined the company, I was the only frontline person. So I didn't have a team to rely on or an individual. Every person was above me. So the first challenges I faced was to organize my work. That was the biggest aspect because you are the frontline person for the whole EU. So if somebody's starting in Berlin, you're managing that person to get onboarded, making sure all accounts are created on time, and distributing those accesses. So the biggest challenge was to start getting those knowledge as soon as possible and to understand the tools the company use, because nobody expects you to know everything on the spot. Nobody expects you to know everything in 1 month. Every company would have something that is either knowledge-based article, which is somewhere you can go and refer back to either a question that you've had or a process on how to do things. They will build that, or they expect you to build and grow that position because you are the person that's getting those knowledges. So the biggest challenge was to not only understand the job, but making sure that I can show that I'm the right person. Because if you're one team person, it's easy for the whole process to slow down and everyone is blaming you because there's no one else in the team. So it's about relying and asking the questions at the right time.
Can you give us an overview between the difference between the first line and the second line? It could be thin line between the two. It could be a huge gap. So it depends from one company to another company. So your own experience, give us the difference between the first line and second line. What sort of things you do in second line you did not do in first line? Yeah, in terms of technical, in terms of challenges, in terms of technology.
Biggest change is you're not the onboarding and offboarding person anymore. So the hardware part, you leave that behind as soon as you joined the second line. What made it so easy to adapt to the position is you are the person who was building these accounts. So you already know if there's an issue where they're created and how those processes are coming through the system. You know about the hardware, you know about the system. So it made it so easy to adapt to the second line position than the first line, because the differences is that you're dealing with high number of tickets in the second line. You're in a queue with the rest of the team, which means that they have a system that auto-assigns the ticket. So you don't go in and select the ticket that you want. The system decides which ticket goes to who and at what time. So it's about organizing the high priority tickets, because at the beginning I was only dealing with low tickets, meaning, just the basic bits of or the work element. So that was the biggest scare or jump. It was to dealing with the high tickets, the more frequent tickets, and organizing those jobs.
Okay, and all organizations are not the same. Some of them are small, some of them are medium, some of them are huge and big. So how many users you support in your organization? The first line, second line, how many users there?
So for the first line, you're supporting roughly, I would say, everybody, depending on how big the issue is. So you're, again, the front-facing person. So any basic issue that comes across, that will come to you first. So if it's either password reset, just moving an account or creating a system, that will come to you as a first-line person. The second line, I will say, is dealing with 400 to 500 staff members. So if you are 3 people, that's the ticket that distributes through the system. So you're not only expected to close down those tickets as soon as possible, but you are expected to know where those issues are coming from and try to highlight it to more senior level people.
I'm sure these users are not only based in UK, in London, they're based across EU, maybe globally, even some of them.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have users in different places.
Yeah.
So what about the working pattern? Sometimes do you work from home? Do you go to the office, or is it hybrid, or do you work different time zones? So give us overview if you work for international company like yours, and how do you manage your time?
In the second line, at the beginning, it was that you support about 5 different offices from Berlin to Glasgow. So everybody is roughly on the same time zone as you are. The higher the position goes, the more you are more of a global person. meaning that you support Australia and the next day you might support somebody in US. Again, nobody in any position that I've learned is that nobody expects you to know every system. What they expect you is to have the basic instinct of the troubleshoot. That is what takes you to every level that you come along. Your troubleshoot skills grows with you.
During the first line, second line, I'm sure you faced a lot of challenges, technical challenges. Maybe you don't know how to fix it. Maybe you don't have experience. So what is the approach? If you come across an issue you never did, you never faced, how do you approach it? Do you Google? Do you escalate? So because a lot of people here are new and they're a bit scared, what happens if I don't know the job? What about if I don't know the task or the ticket?
The easiest ticket I've ever had was the biggest issue I've ever had as well.
Wow.
It was just to change a display setting. It wasn't any technical. They were using 2 monitors. They just wanted to split the screen. I've never done that. And I could not say to them, I don't know how to split the screen. So the first thing I did was just go to Google and just say how to split a screen on Windows 10.
Wow.
And just go to that basic instance. Sometimes you will think that you can, get ready for all of it, but you troubleshooting your own skills using Google, using YouTube's, that's what they expect from you, is to get to the troubleshoot on your own. So asking is not a problem, but trying to show that you can get to the issue and finding the information is more skills itself.
And there's no harm Googling, isn't it? Because everyone Googles at IT.
Everyone Googles. So even as a senior now, you still do that the same. It doesn't change. It's just knowing the keywords. It will never change, I think, in IT.
Just make sure to go to the back end, and tell you are quite busy.
Exactly. Because when a user approaches you, you cannot say, give me 10 minutes, I'll go Google the issue. What they're expecting you is using more of your people skills to say, let me find out more about this issue and why it's happening. And then you can do your own research in the corner.
And also, I mentioned ticketing system, and I'm sure every single organization, they have their own ticketing system. So there are a few of them, like ServiceNow, Freshdesk, Zendesk. So what ticketing system do you use in your organization?
We use both Freshservice and Freshdesk. So we bought it from an organization called Freshwork. They have a lot of ticketing system depending on the need of the company. So we use Freshservice for IT related or support related issues, because that's where we manage our assets, the tickets, the change management, as we're going to go through later about ITIL. And Freshdesk is more of a customer facing instance. So you have to know at least one of the ticketing system, because that will come 100% in your interviews or in your CVs.
That's good because there are so many ticketing systems, and as he said, if you know one of them, of course you can adapt and learn any other ticketing system. All of them are same, the same concept. Just the layout, the interface is slightly different. In terms of Office 365, I'm sure you deal and quite a lot. And then you had so many issues in Office 365. So can you summarize for us maybe the 3, 4, 5 top issues? And how do you approach? Not in details and step by step, but what are the common issues so people can go and have a look and prepare for these type of problems?
From a frontline interviews or from frontline person, the basic to know about Office 365 is the reset password. How would you be able to reset? Which system does what purposes? So knowing the difference between the Microsoft Admin Center and the Exchange, for example, because you might be asked a basic question, which is how do you create a shared mailbox and how do you give access to those things? So it is just a common thing that would happen in your day-to-day. You will face it more than you think, and nobody expects you to break down and talk about everything in Office 365. They just want you to have the understanding of the different systems.
That's good, mashallah. Apart from ticketing system and Office 365 and bit of AD, are there any things you want them to focus through the first line or the second line? Any other technology you believe is ideal them to learn?
The biggest thing you can have is ITIL, understanding of the work frame of ITIL, because that gives the manager or the recruitment company an idea that you actually know more than maybe you put into your CV. Just having the word and understanding it is two different things. So you can, everyone can say, I've done ITIL. But if you ask about the basic of ITIL and, how do you use ITIL at your workspace today, you have to be able to elaborate. And that's a very, very useful skills throughout your career, whether you're first line or third line.
That's quite good. I mentioned ITIL quite a lot, starting from A+ and network and server. I mentioned so many times. And Engineer Kamil, mashallah, whenever I mentioned ITIL, he was ready to go through the concept, watch the videos, maybe do the exam. Another guy, Mohammed, he's not here tonight, but I believe he's online. He showed me 2 weeks ago, man, I passed the exam. And that's what I want, guys. Yeah? Because you passed. Oh, mashallah. Usman here passed the exam. Well done. Oh, mashallah. Amazing. Yeah, that's good. So that's what you need. You need to act on the information. Yeah? Just if you wait and wait and wait, nothing will happen. Yeah? So you can do, ITIL is not like practical. It's concept, framework, theory, concept. Yeah? So if you go through the videos and books, you can do the exam within 1 week. I've seen people who completed and finished and even passed the exam within 1 week. If you put on your CV at the top, ITIL certified, it will open a lot of doors for you. And Engineer Kamil is not like only first line, second line. He hires people. And I'm sure he looks me, ITIL certified people.
Yeah.
Yeah? So I advise you to start doing the exam as soon as you can. Yeah? And that is a big investment on yourself. You are kind of specialized in MDM. You know how to set up MDM from beginning to the end. By the time you started your first IT role, you did not have that much information.
No.
So how is important someone to learn the basic concept of MDM, not in details, not in advance. So share with us what's MDM and what are the main tasks you advise for the first line supporters.
So with the MDM, as Martin said, when I first joined the company, we didn't even use it. So there were never a high requirement for it. We used to use a different MDM tool when I joined, which was a Meraki system to manage our phones and access points. None of the interviews or the stages I've done with the company ask you about in depth about MDM. They will ask you if you have any sort of interaction with it. Have you been exposed to it? And what they're looking for is just the extra point that you can get in an interview. If you understand the basic enrollment of a mobile device, not going into in depth with anything else, just the basic enrollment, that will set you apart everyone else, because you will not see a lot of people from the front line that has that exposure. So understanding one system in MDM and just getting that much exposure or information about it, it sets you apart from everyone else. Okay,
another important things you normally see on the job spec is about imaging, laptop imaging, desktop imaging, and stuff like that, which is not difficult because the entire system is set up by the management, by the third line. For first line, all what you need to do is go to the computer, turn off, turn on, press F12, and then the computer will go through the process. So give us maybe 1 or 2 minutes about the imaging and how do you do the imaging in your place.
The imaging that we used, again, as the Marlin said, is in the network. It's already built for you ages ago. It might have not been improved in the last few months or years, but the imaging is just getting a brand new laptop or a used laptop, knowing where to go and press. No one on your first day would ask you, here you go image this laptop. They will walk you through what they use. Even if it's advanced for you, they will still go through the process that it sits on. Where is that imaging, what network it sits on. The only thing you're expected to know is how to image, what system or what ports or the network that you're connecting to. And from there, exactly what the Ma'lin said, F12, if you're using some specific laptops, and the imaging process will start. You might need to authenticate yourself to go through the process. And once you do that, all the application that it requires will be there. So you're not asking anyone to do anything from scratch.
Now you are EU IT service lead, which is a high position. So how long it took you to move from first line to second, and from second to the position you're at the moment? Yeah. And what was the main motive or drive or things to inspire you?
I think the best advice I received was when I was doing Windows Server. We had someone that came into the class. He was doing a presentation about Office 365, how you create users and everything. And after the class, I asked him what he did to get to the level he was at. What courses did he do? What certification does he have? And he was in third line, and he didn't have any certification. He just did Network Plus, A Plus, Network Plus, and Windows Server. That was it. He never looked back. So what he said was basically, do not try to jump too quickly, which was the advice that I took that from that day, which was you would know exactly when you're ready. So it's not about, having people around you to say, yeah, you've been, there for 6 months, you need to start doing second, third line. Every job is different. What you do in the first line for maybe NHS might be big different from a corporate company. You might be exposed a lot more, which takes you time to learn. So my first line support, I worked for 10 months before I applied for the second line. So when I was there for 7 months, a position became available. I still didn't feel that I was ready. So I never approached it. I never applied for it. But then the 10 month came and I felt more ready. I thought I did what I could do with the front line. I got the knowledge that I needed. So I approached my manager to say, the position that's available now, I want to apply for it. So I was given straight away. He thought I was ready, but he thought I was ready, in the previous position as well. But I just didn't apply for it. I wasn't confident enough. I thought I still had some, work to do. So I didn't approach it. So from second line to the senior role I am in now was a year and a month before I applied for the senior role. Again, this time I didn't wait. As soon as I was informed that there's a position available, I applied for it. We were asked to, a lot of my colleagues applied for it, so what we were asked was to present. You get certain questions, you have to present it, and you have to be confident about the aspect of the job because you're going to be the lead side of it.
And how many of you?
3.
3. So kind of competition. So you have to do a presentation and talk about the product they use and the services they deliver and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Go on.
So we use Fresh Service for the ticketing system. So within Fresh Service, if I just go a little bit, is that you can run reports. Everyone can see, or your manager, can see your progress, how your response time is, how you deal with the tickets, how long it takes you to close the ticket. So the question that we were asked was, how is the ticketing system look like today compared to the next 6 months? What would you improve in that aspect? And how would you improve it? So we had to use the Fresh Service to run those reports, and you have to use an actual data. So you cannot come up with an idea that doesn't exist. It has to be something that is an actual issue to use.
So you have to go through the data and analyze and predict what's going to happen next 6 months.
6 months, yeah.
Wow, go on. That's great.
So running those reports, you get an expected frame of how many tickets happen in the last 3 months. So you compare that to say, basically, if there's no improvements done, this is the trend that the ticket will go. And then based on that, you can see what is the highest issue. So within the second to third line, you will be asked a lot of what is our highest issues today and how can we improve for those tickets not to come in tomorrow. So those are the things that I was asked to predict and to come up with a solution on how we can approach those changes.
What are the skills you believe gave you the advantage to get a job, apart from technical? Something you did at the work, something you did...
The people skills. Okay. I think that took me more advantage than my colleagues because I try to understand the whole aspect of the company. So between the security, our data team, what are the biggest issues? Because those are coming through the same system that we use. So understanding more than what your work is will always set you apart. You will understand a lot more better when you know the source and when you know the teams a little bit better.
As a manager, what do you do every single day? Because now you're not doing anything technical most of the time. Most of the time you do a little bit, yeah. Maybe the advanced one is, or maybe the one could not be finished by first and second line. But how do you spend your time? What do you do? How do you manage your team? Because now you have a team in entire EU. Biggest
task is to manage the IT service desk and the ticketing system. So you have to try to not only see the flow of the tickets for the day, how are they getting generated, from what system or from what region has the biggest issue today. Making sure that the skills in your staff are able to solve everything they need within themselves. So having a staff that has multiple skills is always higher than a person who's always just good at maybe AD. So having the skills that can multitask at the same time is very crucial to what we do. So trying to make sure we have cover as well. So that's part of my job, to make sure that we are able to cover any problem, but as well as anything that needs to be done within any offices.
How is it difficult to manage people scattered in different locations, in different places? Because at the end of the day, even if you go home, so you have to make sure the system runs smoothly.
Yeah.
And some of them, they are in different time zone. So how do you manage managing different people in different locations? Is that tough, or?
It is difficult because in certain region you have one person in some location. So if they're off and if they're based in a big office, that's staff members who do not have support. So not only have you have to have an idea of what ticket they have in their system, but you have to know what is coming while they're off. Are we able to cover that? And are we able to make sure that if somebody's laptop is completely gone today and there's nothing we can do remotely, are we able to ship that laptop very quickly? And who's the best person to do that, or the closest person?
So now you are hiring manager. Of course, you manage, you hire people. You could hire some of the students, mashallah, in the future.
Inshallah.
Okay, when people apply or candidates apply the job you advertised, what is the first thing you need to look at the CV? What is the first thing you normally check on the CV in order to say, yeah, this candidate will suit me for the position?
ITIL and their technical skills. So what do they have in their technical side of aspect? And are they exposed to Office 365? Because the most question that I approach in the hiring position or the interviews are most based on that. To see what you have there is something that not only works with the team, but works for the company or the position you're hiring for.
Do you use any AI software in order to merge the CVs to
that's done by the HR. So it gives you a percentage of how much your skills and your CV matches the job description. And that's why it's important to make sure whatever you're applying for is something that aligns with your CV. So if it's not, if you need to change things.
Say you advertise a job and 10 people apply the job and you're going to go through the interview.
We basically don't choose more than 3. So however many CVs that come in, we try to manage it based on 3 candidates. That is just to give yourself the right mindset when you go to those interviews, so you're not tired, or by the time you reach the last person, even though they're more skillful, you're not, giving them the fair chance. So we try to do the best 3 that have applied, and through that we ask the same questions, slightly different depending on the answers they give.
Yeah, and as a hiring manager, of course, both are important for you, the HR and tech questions, of course, and soft skills, of course. So which one do you value more, the soft skills or tech skills?
Soft skills. More of the customer facing, more of the team knowledge. How are you able to share your knowledge if you do have something that stands out more than the team? How do you work around certain critical issues, whether you're the first person on site today and you're facing an office that doesn't have a network? Where does your mind take you? And how do you approach those things? A technical person can always be taught, but the soft skills is you can see straight away from someone who doesn't have one at all to someone who has a lot better.
Okay, sometimes I tell students when I have to understand from the crowd, because if you shortlist 3 or 5, whatever, they have to make sure that to be number 1.
Yeah.
So what would you look into the person in order to say this person is number 1? What sort of things you look? Of course, technical and HR, but is there anything else apart from that in terms of maybe dress, in terms of the way they carry themselves, the way? So is there any other value you look into the person?
The first thing I take notice is when you join the interview. So if we do the first, which is Teams, we always check because Teams will notify how long you've been in the call and waiting. So when is the time, your timekeeping? Because with IT, everything is time essence. So you have to make sure you can manage your time. And if somebody joins, a minute too late and you're waiting for them rather than them waiting is always a bonus because you will get that credit straight away. The second thing is how they approach themselves with the questions. If the answers are even difficult to the person, do they, honestly try to answer the best they can, or do they just say, I don't know? So those are the second thing that we look at. So the question we ask, we don't expect 100% answer back. But what we expect is a person to be confident, be able to give an idea of how they would have done it. It might not have been the right way, but it's the mindset that sets apart the other people.
Okay, and in terms of technical, how do you assess the technical skills? Do you do tests? Do you ask questions only, or do you have a software-based system that can go and answer the questions? How do you assess?
The technical is more of a question-based. So we ask, again, what they put in their CV, but we always ask the basic of DNS, DHCP, what is an IP address, just the basic technical questions.
At the end of the day, you have to choose one candidate and reject the rest. How do you feel when you reject candidates?
Being in that position is because you know exactly what it was a couple of years ago when you were doing the same position, applying for jobs. So we always try to be honest and try to give feedback because that's something that I valued a lot when I was looking for a job. So I always try to give feedback. It might be that the two people are similar, but you chose a candidate based on location, if they share their location, or it just might be that they have better soft skills. So you always try to give the honest feedback. Sometimes it's nothing wrong with the interview or their CV. It's just the other person answers and explaining was the advantage.
You give feedback, but some of them they don't give feedback. So what is the best way to approach them or ask them feedback? Is that through the call, or through email, or through agencies? What do you think the best option is to ask feedback?
The best way to try to get feedback is to use your latest part of your interview when they ask you what do you want to ask, to make sure you have your questions aligned, but also to end it with, if I am an unsuccessful candidate, and I would appreciate if you can give me a feedback of what I can improve or what exactly sets me differently from the person that you hired. They might not be able to go into detail, but they will be able to approach it. And if you candidate or someone who was approached through agency, I would advise more is to speak to the agency to get you that feedback, because they will definitely get a feedback of why you wasn't hired.
So now, Engineer Kamil, of course, you started from first line, then second line, then now you are a manager, EU IT service lead. So what is next for you? Where do you see yourself in next maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years? Do you want to stay in the technical area, or you want to go into management? What's your plan?
That's the difficult question, I think, at the moment, because I still enjoyed a little bit of the technical side. So being new into the management side of things makes you question if you want to go through the path of the technical again. But my next, inshallah, plan is to advance in the network side of the aspect of things, grow my knowledge in the network side, and dive into how the whole infrastructure is connected.
That's good, mashallah. So now, AI is everywhere, basically. And I'm sure a lot of companies are trying to automate the IT services, especially first line. Is that something you're thinking about, or something you're doing in your company? And where do you see the IT jobs will go, especially first line, second line?
I still think in the next couple of years, there will still be a frontline facing person, because you will still need a physical person in, whether that's on site or whether that is a person that needs to go to a different aspect of the job. What I see today compared to when I first joined is a lot of the basic things are getting automated. So such as assigning a license or adding a person to a particular group. Those things are the tedious jobs that is not a useful skills to have, and it's not something that you will get hired because you know how to add someone to a group. The best advice I can give is, with AI growing, is to grow your skills. The more you have your skills elevated and up to date with how technologies are moving, understanding what is the, what's up there in the market in the aspect of technologies, is very good skills to have.
That's a very good point, because in IT, in tech, there are two types of grow. You can grow vertically or horizontally. Back in the days, people used to grow vertically, which means they do, for example, basic courses, A+, and network, and CCNA, then CCNB, then CCIE, and they specialize into a specific product. And that's what they call vertical growing. But that is not the case anymore. Organizations they look at different skills. Yeah, so it's better to grow horizontally, which means learn a bit of cybersecurity, learn a bit of cloud, learn a bit of networking, learn a bit of here and there. The reason, because in that way you can market yourself more. Yeah, because you have a lot of knowledge. So don't grow only vertically, but try to grow horizontally. Yeah, learn more skills, especially cloud. And that's the question I'm going to come to ask in Kamil now. So how do you see the cloud market, and do you use cloud in your organization? I'm sure you use, of course, because now I encourage students to focus on the cloud. Whatever you want to do, make sure cloud is part of it. If you do networking, make sure cloud is part of it. If you do cybersecurity, make sure cloud is part of it, because most of the tools and organizations are moving into cloud. So how do you see the cloud market, and how do you use cloud in your organization?
Cloud market, I think at the moment is high demand, but with not a lot of candidate, meaning that a person who has that skills straight away stands across than any person who can have a server system administrator or anything like that. Because as the man said, everything is moving to cloud. At the moment, we are in the first stages of getting into cloud. We have Intune, for example, for our device management side. So mobile phones, computers, everything is managed through Intune. As things moving across, you can see that you move towards the goal of cloud. And the one thing that I've learned is that I joined as a IT technical person, but what you learn on the jobs is that things will change, and it's just about adapting very quickly. So otherwise you're stuck and you get easily left behind.
For example, here we have a lot of female and sisters, mashallah, and now I'm encouraging so much of them to join the tech sector. How do you see the sisters, especially Somali sisters, in tech sector? And what advice would you give them in order to make themselves more marketable, more accessible? What sort of maybe tips and techniques they can use? So, and if it comes to the hiring, and as a hiring manager, would you hire? Of course, based on the skills, you cannot discriminate. Yeah. I know that. But which one do you give a preference? More like female or the male side?
I think female always get more advantage into the tech just because of the dominance that the workspace has. You have in a team where maybe 5-6 people are all male in one region, and you want to change that aspect of it. And again, it comes down to your skills. You have to the best advice I can give you is just be confident, because a lot of people are hiring not just because of the female or male aspect of things, but it's just the confidence in the front line. If you're confident, then they can rely on you to be able to speak up when you need help and know when you need to escalate stuff. So it's just the confidence that sets apart any candidate.
And the reason I ask that question is because, IT is my male-dominated sector, of course, But now it's changing, and a lot of organizations right now, they have active policy to hire more female rather than male in order to change perception, in order to attract a lot of female. And that's why I believe there's advantage for the sisters, yeah, to go and apply, because some of them, they have a policy to hire and to take female rather than male. If you meet, of course, the job spec, they cannot just hire you because you're female, yeah. So you have to show you are the best candidate, yeah. But when it comes to competition between you and another person, male, of course, and you have maybe same skills or maybe you have better skills, of course, they'll hire you, yeah. And sometimes even if you're less skilled, but you're willing to learn more, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm not sure about the policy you use in your company, but I'm sure there are a lot of organizations that have a policy like that. Yeah, especially working from home. Yeah, because if you're a sister, of course, female, and especially if you're mom, that allows you to work from home. How many days you work from home?
3 to 2 times, depending on the work.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the kind of hybrid, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. The question is, if you could give one piece of advice to your younger self, starting out in tech, what would it be?
Be more confident, because when you first join, you questioning a lot of things that's not true, which is, how would I be able to handle this job? How would I be able to survive if I've never done IT properly in my life? That's never the case. You always get training. You always get the help from the management to your team. It's just to be confident to apply, to be able to go for the position that you want.
And finally, at the end, just for fun, if you could have one superpower to help you in your job, what would be?
I thought about this a lot. I even asked ChatGPT,
okay,
just to get an idea, because I had no idea what to say. But the one thing I would say is knowledge, because you realize what sets apart from anyone is the knowledge that you have. The knowledge is something that, people come across easily, but they don't take advantage of it. You will see somebody maybe who has a lot of exposure to the system. They don't have any delegation. They can access what they need, but they don't use that knowledge and, advance in the role. So, yeah, knowledge will be the
knowledge,
best.
yeah. They say knowledge is power, yeah? And information is power, of course. So now, Engineer Kamil, we have a lot of Somalis, young, in UK, in Europe, in America, in Canada, and other places. And some of them, they're not taking the potential, they're not using their potential. Yeah, they work in warehouse, they work in retail, Uber Eats, and stuff like that. So what is your message for those young people in order to maybe learn tech or any other skills and become more professional? Because you know the market, you know how the demand is, and there's a shortage in IT in tech, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is your message for young people, male and female both? And you're quite young, mashallah.
So the best advice I can give you is you have to take a leap of faith. You have to trust the process. At the beginning, you will face a lot of difficulties. You will face a lot of questions where you're not able to do the lab work or, understand the lecture of the day. But you have to try to stay on your course. It is 8 to 10 weeks per course that you do. And at the end of the day, when you finish, it's only up to you to be able to go to that next interview and learn something from it. So the best advice I can give you is there's a lot of jobs for IT. There's a lot of roles that people are hiring for people with a lot less skills than what you do here. It's just to have that bit of trust and belief that you can do it.
And they say 70% of the jobs are not advertised. They're hidden. You have to know, you have to have a connection, you have to know someone, you have to be recommended. So what do you think people can do in order to tap into that market and become more marketable? Not only apply online, but also maybe hidden market. So what's your advice?
The biggest market that you can find is LinkedIn. LinkedIn, if you build your connection, you will see through agencies, people advertising their job straight there. You will see other people saying, I'm hiring for some role, who's, please reply to me and I will contact you. There's so many ways in LinkedIn that it can help you get noticed. Just building a profile, you would have people approaching you rather than even you knowing about that position. So you're already building yourself a platform where people can contact you as soon as they see that you're open to work. Even though they know you got hired last month, you'll see agency trying to pitch an idea or try to say, do you want to do this interview? Just see how it goes. So it is a very good platform to go into.
I cannot thank enough Engineer Kamil, mashallah, coming here, especially after a long day. Yeah, you can feel معناها how difficult it is someone to go early معناها morning to a job, spend the whole entire day at work. Yeah, come here just to share his journey with you, motivate you, inspire you. Yeah, so that means he wants you guys to move on and become successful. Yeah, and the only way we can show him is guys to apply your first IT job. Don't delay. Yeah, the quicker, the faster, the better. So next time he comes here, at least he should معناها see some of you in IT job first role.
Inshallah.
Yeah, and we have to make a special dua for him. And thanks for coming here.
Thank you so much. Inshallah.
Till we see you next time, inshallah ta'ala, fi amanillah, wa salamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.